In the first year of this channel, I had the idea of tuning in thirds, but not in a straight major or minor way. My thinking was to create your classical root, third, fifth triads while fretting with just one finger. So continuing in this thinking, we end up alternating both major and minor intervals to hit every note in a major scale and create a massive major 7th, add 11, add 13, add 15 over 8 strings. We elaborated and went over all the variants of this diatonic idea that you can check out in that video. But I thought the most interesting idea was actually maintaining a normal 6-string guitar's tuning of E2 to E4 using the additional 2 strings. This time around, I decided to try both true major and minor thirds, and we're pulling out a 7 and 9 string to complement the original 8 in the extended range guitar family. I hope you like a lot of nerdy music theory talk. This is Kevin from Said Too Much. So trying out major thirds, starting with an E2, we end up at an E4 again, but this time over 7 strings. Now what do we have? Starting with the root and adding a major third puts us on track for a major E chord, but a major third from that G sharp to C overshoots the natural fifth by a half step, which in music theory gives us an augmented chord. Adding another major third brings us back to E, and the pattern continues in this 3-note cycle, so we're definitely not hitting every note of a traditional major scale like last time. In fact, the augmented chord doesn't even appear naturally in any of the chords in a major scale, and uses what would be considered an accidental note, but it's still one huge, simple open tuning. An augmented tuning is considered dissonant and demands to be resolved to maybe But dissonance can be an important part of music, helping it keep moving. For minor thirds, we interestingly still get an E2 to E4 tuning, but this time over 9 strings. Yeah, so how does having 9 strings without tuning lower a single cent sound to all you gen heads out there? This time, starting with the root and adding a minor third puts us on track for a minor chord, obviously. But we take a left turn, coming a half step short on completing the E's natural fifth to a B flat instead. It's a diminished fifth, giving us a diminished chord, which actually does pop up once naturally in a major scale. Now we're not actually done yet, with an extra C sharp note to add before we get to E, and repeat the pattern again, giving us a final chord of a diminished 7th. It's once again technically an open tuning, but with a little more color added to it than the 3-note triad of the major thirds, giving us 4 distinct notes. This chord is also considered dissonant, and often associated with the Devil's Triad in metal, which cuts out the regular minor third in order to play under heavy distortion. So what do y'all think? Is there more to retool, like pickups and guitar design? Is there a technique or tone I overlooked when trying things? These two new thirds tunings have about the same pros and cons as the original 8-string project, useful for tighter spaced chords and extreme voicings, but that can also be to the detriment of the instrument. Maybe two-handed techniques could have been a little bit better implemented than what I'm capable of, and I'm curious how many of you out there have tried something like this. I'm sure I'm not the only one. One thing's for sure, this is a good excuse as any to buy an extended range guitar, for any of you out there that still hate on them for being pretentious metal instruments. We've tried other straight tunings, like 2 different variants on a fifths idea, which I actually wrote an instrumental playthrough for if you all want to support my original music and check it out. Of course, let me know where to go and what we should try for more of these simple restringing projects. And before I go, cross your fingers for me. One way or another, this 9-string is never gonna look the same way again. For now though, enough said. For early video access, raw instrument tracks, and more exclusives, find our community on Patreon and consider adding your support.
Said too much.